Omar Marmoush, Kusenov, Vitor Reis. Man City have spent big in the winter transfer window as they look to bounce back to winning ways. Under Pep Guardiola, they saw success all the time, but they have hit a point where a rebuild was needed. And the best way to rebuild is to inject some youth into the team. Young players who are not only going to get better in the future, but they can also help you win matches now. A lot of money was spent, but how much better has this City team become? Let's find out. The biggest name among the City signings is by far Omar Marmoush. The Egyptian had been killing it in the Bundesliga. In his first season at Frankfurt, he scored 17 goals and provided 6 assists in 41 appearances. While halfway through the 2024-2025 season, he already surpassed those numbers, getting 20 goals and providing 14 assists in all competitions. He has usually operated as either a lone striker or next to Hugo Ekitike in a striker partnership. In both roles, he has been fantastic, which is exactly what Manchester City fans want to hear, because that means he can play both with and without Erling Haaland. Marmoush's pace and dribbling ability make him a threat in 1v1 situations, especially when there's space for him to attack to. In those moments, he is consistently able to make the right decision while carrying the ball forward at high speed. Naturally, because of the way defending is in the Bundesliga, yes, sometimes it's comical, and Frankfurt's style of play, Marmoush would often be in situations where there is a lot of space to attack to. And when there's space, that's where he's the most lethal. He is a very difficult man to stop on the counterattack. He is constantly aware of his positioning, especially when his team is retrieving possession, which allows him to be a dangerous outlet on the transition. Perfect example of this being his goal against Holstein in September. As soon as Frankfurt won the ball back, Marmoush began to adjust his position to distance himself from the opposition back three. He makes a diagonal run into the space, then carries the ball forward nicely. Not hard to see him recreate this exact same scenario just with Akanji, Guardiola, Ruben Dias, one of those defenders winning the ball back and starting a City counterattack. What makes Marmoush really dangerous is that he isn't just some sort of pace merchant. On top of his speed, he's also really good at making decisions on the fly. Just look at his first goal against Bayern in a 3-3 draw that happened. His teammate's movement drags Upamecano up the pitch. Marmoush then spots this and attacks the central space in behind instead of the wide areas where the right back Guerrero is searching for the opposition center forward. Marmoush then sprints into that space before putting it past Neuer. Now the good thing about Marmoush is that yes, he's dangerous on the break, getting in behind defenders, but he's also very comfortable playing with the ball with his back to goal. You'll see him constantly dropping off to provide his teammates a passing option. And because his dribbling is so good, he's able to easily get out of tight spaces. Perfect example of this being one of his assists to Ekitike. He comes to collect the ball from deep, beats the center back with his first touch, then finds the open man who gives Frankfurt the lead. So this is a positive sign for City fans because, as you know, when City plays a team, they park the bus, the neighborhood, their entire family tree behind the ball so that they don't concede. There is very little space to work with, but Marmoush has shown an ability to be able to find pockets of space and to be able to work his magic when there's a lot of guys behind the ball. He really reminds me a little bit of Julian Alvarez in the sense that a lot of people thought that Alvarez was only good on the counter and when there's space, but he showed that he can do really well in the Premier League even against low blocks. Marmoush's movement in the box, his set piece delivery, and the fact that he can get him behind are super needed. Because to be honest with you, City have a lot of players that are comfortable with the ball at their feet, but they're not necessarily a threat going vertically. Like Doku wants the ball so he can spam body feints. De Bruyne and Foden also want the ball to their feet. There's basically only Erling Haaland that's willing to make runs in behind. Savinho's doing it a little bit more, but Marmoush will now be a real threat to get him behind. Marmoush's versatility also means that he can play in any positions across the front line. Now it's clear he's at his best going through the middle, but he can play on the wings, which is great for City. They needed someone else to be able to score goals because you can't just rely on Erling Haaland and Guardiola to get all your goals. Like, I apologize, but you never want a defender to be your main scorer. I'm looking at you, Arsenal. Now, I know there is a running joke in the footballing community that there's something called the Bundesliga tax. The belief that some players just look better in Germany, like Jovic, Kolo Muani, Werner, Dembele, etc. Now you might have noticed, two of the guys I listed both also played for Frankfurt, and that's because the club has a history of scamming teams out of large money on their attackers who have been in form for only a couple of seasons. But do not be worried, City fans, because those players were poorly recruited. After all, City as a club have a great track record of recruiting from the Bundesliga. Kevin De Bruyne, arguably the greatest midfielder to ever play in the Premier League, came from Wolfsburg. Company, a legend at City, came from the Bundesliga. So did one of the greatest strikers the Premier League has ever seen, as well as City's treble-winning captain. Sané's best years have been at City, and he came from Schalke. Guardiola, Akanji, both from the Bundesliga. So while the Bundesliga tax joke is made tongue-in-cheek and Frankfurt, well, they do scam people out of money like insurance companies, I wouldn't be worried if you're a City fan because City recruits really well, they know exactly what profiles they need, and they've got Pep Guardiola. He can transform anyone. Now, while Marmoush fixes some of the attacking issues, City also reinforced the defense. They have signed 2 young center backs who have a lot of potential. First one is 19-year-old Vitor Reis from Brazil. Vitor is 6'1", but very good in the air. He won 2.8 aerial duels per 90 minutes throughout his debut campaign, putting him in the 92nd percentile of players in the Brazilian top flight last season. Only Rodri and John Stones had better stats than that in the air for City in the last campaign. Vitor's good ability in the air has translated to attacking set pieces, where he's been a lot more aggressive in attacking the space. He took 6 shots for Palmeiras last season, 5 with his head, scoring in big games against Corinthians and Flamengo. The Sao Paulo derby against Corinthians was a huge turning point for Vitor because not only did he score his first professional goal in one of the fiercest rivalries on the continent, but he helped Palmeiras keep a clean sheet. Due to his frame, being a long, lanky guy and being very composed on the ball, as well as having an ability to score goals, he got compared to John Stones a lot. He's one of those defenders that has no problem just moving into midfield with the ball because he's that comfortable. He is also comfortable and calm in duels, using his long legs to sweep the ball away. That Corinthians game really showed Vitor at his best, shutting down the league's top goal scorer Yuri Alberto with an aggressive man-marking approach. On the ball, he has great technical ability. He's able to easily start attacks from the back. Now, according to The Athletic, his passing stats don't jump out, but that's due to the fact that there's a sense that he plays more safely so that he can stay in the first team. From what I read and researched, it seems that Palmeiras plays a very Jose Mourinho park the bus counterattacking style. So as a result, Vitor, he didn't really try that many risky passes or try and get forward that quickly. But when you look at footage from his youth team days, he definitely has the ability to play progressive passes and really create attacks from the back. And there's a feeling that there's another level that he can reach. He's also very versatile. He can play as a center back, as a full back. He's comfortable in a back 3 and a back 4. The other thing that scouts have liked about him is that he's shown a lot of leadership qualities. Now, the other center back is from Uzbekistan, and his name is Kusenov. He's pretty much the opposite profile of Vitor in the sense that he's much faster and way more aggressive in tackling and dominating duels. Like when this man makes a tackle, he is going to crunch you. He's good at winning duels in the air, on the ground. He's not afraid of putting his body on the line to get blocks. He was a regular playing for Longs and did a great job in covering space for his teammates. I think his speed was definitely a massive factor for why City went for him because he's the type of player that can do what Kyle Walker used to do, and that is recover the ball and really cover for his teammates when there's a large space in behind, especially from transitions. Walker's legs are clearly done and he's getting ready to speak Arabic, so Kusenov is a great player to come in and replicate Walker's ability to close down space. Because think about it, counterattacks are really the only time that City are vulnerable. So now when teams want to counter City and they see a large chunk of space, they're going to run into Kusenov, who is not only fast, but he loves a good tackle. It seems that City have found their next John Stones and Ruben Dias to develop. Now, versatility seems to be a big priority for City, and that's probably why they've also been pushing for Andrea Cambiaso from Juventus. This guy is basically the most versatile footballer I've ever seen. He's like the Swiss Army knife of players. He can play in any position and give you a 7 out of 10 performance. Now, of course, these signings won't immediately fix everything. Pretty much all of these guys are very young, and it's going to take them some time to adapt to the Premier League, especially the 2 young center backs. Even Marmoush technically was seen as a reject just a few years ago when he was at Wolfsburg. But City clearly have a plan. They wanted to inject some youth and energy back into the team. And honestly, I'm surprised it took them this long to do this. How City kept winning season after season is ridiculous because at one point, all those players are going to hit a wall. It seems that they've hit it now, but I'm surprised that it didn't happen earlier. Like, City is still using very much the same players for multiple years now. I mean, look at Gundogan. The man left, and now he's back again. I think cracks have been showing for a few seasons now, but you don't really look at it as a problem when the team keeps winning over and over again. With Haaland signing a 9-year contract, Pep signing a 2-year contract extension, and these young signings, it's clear that City is building for the future. So I think this season was kind of a blessing in disguise. It was a wake-up call. You could also argue that maybe they were waiting to see what the decision is on their 115 alleged charges, but it's good that they're rebuilding the club again. Who knows? Maybe one of these signings is a future Ballon d'Or winner. After Rodri won it, anything is possible. To see why Rodri deserved that Ballon d'Or and it wasn't a robbery, you gotta check out this video right here. It outlines the entire debate between Rodri, Vinny, and Jude Bellingham.